could a test which is hypothesis free help you achieve the diagnosis faster? That is the
So there was a 67-year-old male. He was a chronic kidney disease patient, IHD on medical management, past history of renal artery stenosis. Basically came with weight loss, generalized weakness, low grade fever for the past 15 to 20 days. It's almost 6 to 8 months back. Uh, and there was a difficulty in walking with the weakness being more in the left leg as compared to the right leg. So initially we thought in the terms of we had done all this fever workup, urine routine had showed pus cells, considering it's UTI, treated with Menemes, patient didn't respond. Then we thought it's something related to inflammatory. We called in a rheumatologist, we called in a neurologist. So basically, the myositis, the inflammatory part, everything was covered. Everything, all the panel were negative. The inflammatory workup was negative, the myositis workup was negative. Then we called the ID, as you said, we called it a date. Yes. Because of the asymmetric involvement, because of the swelling, because of that fever being, in spite of the patient being
Where
on
was this
Menemes,
swelling particularly?
left thigh.
Left thigh.
Yeah, there were signs of inflammation also, subtle but there. So then
No
we
history of trauma.
no, and there was an outside report of USG that just showed it is a trochanteric bursitis. That's it, nothing else.
So it was in the upper thigh region.
Yes, left side, yeah. So then next we called ID. That time ID said that it is it's a traumatic, it's a symmetrical for it to be a systemic myositis or something like that. So then she advised a muscle biopsy because it is something localized, unilateral with fever, weight loss.
So USG never showed any collection.
No,
Radiology or USG, nowhere ever was a collection seen,
no,
which could have been tapped or something.
no,
Bone did not show any signs of osteomyelitis at that point.
no,
None of the bone images.
no. So then the muscle biopsy showed a granuloma. That's when,
Okay, so histopathology to
yeah,
start with.
histopath was the first thing that clinched us towards something infective and not inflammatory or myositis, basically.
Right. So to start with, you were thinking of an inflammatory condition.
Yeah.
Right. What about his general counts and all? Nothing pointed towards an infection? The traditional blood pictures or
Yeah, there were. So that's why we had kept him on Menemes basically. The counts were 18,000, 13,000. So we had kept him on Menemes. Fever was initially declining. I mean, the spikes were reducing, but he was febrile.
okay.
He never remained febrile for more than 24 hours. That's when we thought it's
Right.
inflammatory or
So
something.
huge clinical dilemma between inflammation and infection
Yeah,
because all
yeah.
of these parameters were very non-specific.
Yeah, yeah,
So everything
and
pointed towards something being wrong.
yeah, and he was a post-transplant patient. And sorry, I forgot to mention that in the history. So he was on steroids. So firstly, we attributed
Which
that raised
transplant
count
was
to kidney
this?
transplant.
Okay.
So firstly, we attributed that raised counts to
Right.
steroids.
Okay.
Then we thought it's UTI, for which we were
Right.
treating him with Menemes. But the counts
So
were
he was on immunosuppression
Yeah,
only
yeah.
in the form of steroids or
Yeah,
some
yeah,
other
only
instruments?
steroids.
And how long back was this history?
2016.
Okay, so it was nearly 7 to 8
Yes.
years back. And all this while he has been on an
Yeah,
immunosuppressive.
yeah, yeah.
So then after this granuloma was pointed out, that clinched the diagnosis or then did you
Yeah,
go
yeah,
for-
that for sure clinched the diagnosis. Like the ID had picked up, she advised the muscle biopsy. Then it was a granuloma. We started on AKT. He didn't tolerate isoniazids. Then we had to switch it to modified AKT.
Okay, so once you got the granuloma, did you do any tuberculosis specific test?
We got a gene expert positive along with that
So it
of
mentioned
that
any
same
resistance?
sample. No,
Okay.
that's
So-
why we started with
Usually-
first line AKT, but his
the
LFTs were a little
response was-
deranging and everything, so we had to
in the gene
modify it.
expert, normal gene expert we did, in which there is only
The
RIF
consent,
resistance.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you did not get the INH at
No.
that
We did
point. Right. So was it also sent for culture?
Yeah,
It was-
tubercular culture was positive.
Right. So the DST was also done.
Yeah.
So what was the DST result?
It was sensitive to first line AKT. That's why we didn't switch it. So we had discharged the patient on first line AKT. Next time he came with fever, toxic looking, a big swelling, fluctuant swelling on his left thigh, which turned out to be a gluteal tubercular abscess.
But this was after you started therapy.
Yeah.
The worsening was after
Yeah,
initiation
yeah, yeah.
of therapy.
So that was something which paradoxically we labeled it as
Iris.
Yeah.
Right. And you continued with the same therapy.
Yeah.
And what is the status of the patient now?
Right now, I don't know. The last 3 months back when he was admitted, he was okay. Tolerating AKT, gaining weight,
Okay.
clinically better.
Okay. So what could have been the possible source of this infection?
We presumed it's UTI turning into a pylo and then going to the thigh possibly. That was our
So there
thing that
was no
time.
history of any local.
No.
Very interesting. Have you heard of the test tuberculosis whole genome sequencing?
Yeah, we didn't do it, yeah, but
Do you think it would have added value to this?
He was respond. Look, maybe he didn't respond to the first line AKT, but he was the DST showed
maybe we
sensitivity.
could have done it at the second
Second
go
go.
because first time he was responding.
And do you think that right at the first go, when we have a differential, if we think of an infection and if we have a test where it can be screened, whether you have that hypothesis or not, whether you have it in a differential or not, it can screen. Do
Yeah.
you think that test is going to be very useful in the community? Yes. So that is what we do. That is infection NGS. So basically, it is a sequencing based. So far, what we have done is we have tried to grow something in culture, or we have tried to show some antigen or some antibody, or we have tried to show some parts of the nucleic acid using a PCR, which needs to be very specific. So if you are thinking of a Mycobacterium tuberculosis, the moment you thought of it, when
Yeah.
somebody pointed out, you could send it to a gene expert. What happens when we don't think?
Think of it.
And many a times this happens. When we have a patient, we don't think about a certain differential. And that was the intent, that if we do not think, if we want to be hypothesis free and we just want to screen and know what is there, so the approach can be sequencing in that case. Wherein,
And what all that thing like
so this test, when you send a sample, so the entire DNA is taken out from the sample.
It's just for blood
No,
or even tissue.
Any sample.
Any.
Any sample of the body.
Okay.
Currently, off-label use is sputum or stool. We do not have yet not validated it for that. But otherwise, any sample, sterile body sites, so any sample.
Okay.
Gotten some very interesting tissue-related cases, just as you are mentioning, or bone biopsy-related cases where we saw mycetoma cases, actinomyces pelletieri. We saw Mycobacterium iranicum in a joint fluid. So we don't think of these, or even if we think of these, we do not have tests which will be directed towards this. And how many tests can be prescribed to a patient also becomes a challenge. So basically, the moment you send, you take out the DNA. At 6:40, I have the talk, and I understand this concern, and that is what I've based my talk upon today. Right? If I say Pseudomonas aeruginosa, what would you call it?
Definitely not a
Pathogen.
not a contaminant.
You would call it a
Pathogen.
pathogen. Okay. If I say Enterococcus faecium, what would you call it?
Probably a commensal.
If I say a Staphylococcus aureus,
Commensal.
More likely
But depending on the
commensal.
clinical
More likely a
situation, it
commensal.
could be a
that is your
pathogen.
answer.
Yeah.
It's the context.
Yeah.
It is always the context. So nothing is. There are some which are obligates. When in a human body, they are always a pathogen. They never have a status of a commensal or environmental, like any virus. Once it is there, it is an obligate pathogen, right? Similarly, a Salmonella typhi, it is not there just like that. But when we talk about all of these, they can be anything. It's just that some names we are more used to hearing. There are more reports on those. That's why we attribute a pathogen status. Come and
Does this
visit.
test positive on when the patient is on treatment?
If the patient is not responding to the treatment,
Then otherwise no.
because we don't want to pick up dead.
And just a
which is a
last
differentiation with the PCR. So in a PCR, you can have a dead bacteria
Yeah,
picked
yeah.
up. We do long read sequencing. We need intact 16S.
Yeah.
It will not pick up
Actually, we
a
had cost issues also.
And what
I
is
mean,
the cost? Yeah, that was my question.
So, per test cost to a hospital would be roughly around 6,500 to 7,000. Hospitals,
They charge their.
charge the patients. Where we do suggest a ceiling, but
Acha.
we
Fair
want
enough.
it to be
Then
very.
it's fair enough.
So that is it, and that is the change that we are trying to bring in. Be hypothesis free. I think as clinicians, as microbiologists, or as ID physicians, we really have to be hypothesis free.
No, but now one more question comes about is the sample. So, for example, in this patient, what sample would you have thought of sending for this genomics?
So which is
Because
why I
blood would
asked-
not have. I don't think so. Blood would have.
It would not have.
Definitely showed
Definitely not.
mycobacterial too.
So this is very different from what we call a liquid biopsy. This is not a liquid biopsy where there is something, a tumor somewhere, and there are shedding of these cells. It's not that. A site-specific sample is preferred, but if you feel that there can be a secondary bacteremia or fungemia, you can send blood even. And it picks up when there is a bacteremia or a fungemia.
But we don't have this differentiation like here
Like
among the killed and this thing, because if it's picking up DNA,
it's live. So the reason being, if you have to do long read sequencing, the technology that is being used, what you see on the table over there, the nanopore sequencing when being done, it based on long read. Means you need intact DNA for it.
Okay.
And an
Alright.
intact
Got
DNA
it.
is always from a live
yeah,
cell.
in a live bacilli,
Once the cell dies, the DNA gets fragmented.
fragmented.
Yeah, that's right. And also, does it pick the resistant genes?
Genes, the certain genes which we have included, the 13 genes that we have included, not PAM resistance, but the ones where we have felt to be prioritized in terms of Indian epidemiology. So, great interacting with all of you, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank
We
you.
also learned something new.
Yeah.
Always ready to help, and I learned such a lot.